It's about that time of day again here, boys and girls. Welcome back, welcome back. My name is Joseph James with SchoolOfTrade.com. This is your nightly newsletter for Thursday evening, October 2nd, 2014, the second day of October, as we wrap up an incredible week in the markets. We finished up the month of September earlier on this week, and we kick-started the month of October with a bang. What incredible price action we've had this beginning of the fourth quarter of 2014. Now, we are very busy right now reacting to this morning's ECB report, which kind of left everybody a little bit wanting more, right? They didn't really commit to much this morning. But big news here right now is we've got a very important job right now preparing ahead of tomorrow's non-farm payroll report due out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time here in the U.S. Before we jump into our jam-packed newsletter here for you guys and gals this evening, I want to remind you, get on over here to sidewaysmarkets.com. If you're not watching our video right now on our trading blog, if you're watching the video on our YouTube page, there's a link right below the video. That'll take you over here to sidewaysmarkets.com. Now, I got to get you over here to the blog for three specific reasons here to get over to Sideways Markets. Reason number one, right below the video tonight, you've got the charts that I'm going to use here for tomorrow. You guys have the luxury of downloading all of those charts I'm going to talk about here in just a moment. Have those charts ready for you during your trading session tomorrow, and you can download all of them right below tonight's video. Upper left-hand corner, I have a free pass for you guys to come out and join me in my live trade room anytime this week or next, whenever it's convenient for you. I've got a free pass for you. You might be wondering, how do we use these newsletter charts every day in our live trade room? What does it feel like to be a member here at School of Trade? Well, I've got a free pass, so you can come out and join us in our trade room here and see for yourself. Third thing here, lower left-hand corner, right above my ugly mug, you'll see a spot for our name and your email address. I have a special email list going here for our nightly newsletter, and I would love to send you an email every time I post my newsletter Monday through Thursday evening. It'll be sent out around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, if you join the free pass, or if you register for the newsletter list, make sure you check your email, check your spam folders, your junk folders if you've never heard from me before, and I'm going to make sure you're not a robot. I'm going to send you a verification email to confirm that you got my email and give us authorization to send you another one. All right, so make sure you guys download the charts below the video, grab your free pass in the upper left-hand corner, and don't forget, register for that nightly newsletter mailing list. Alrighty, I think we're ready to go here, guys. Thursday evening, we've got some big news on the schedule here for tomorrow. And let's start here first with the mighty mini Russell. Now, fundamentally, what's happening right now on the Russell is you've got a little bit of some jitters here from the investors around the world. The global economic slowdown. We've got some bad news in Asia, some very poor economic conditions with our good friends in Europe. And of course, that is threatening, right, to continue this move lower here on the E-minis. Obviously, coming off all-time highs here a few months ago, we've clearly got some profit taking, and apparently this strong dollar is not enough to keep traders from basically bailing out on these small cap stocks. Remember the Russell 2000. These would be the small companies here in the U.S., and you know, they're kind of the first ones to get dumped, right, when you're taking profit. So looks like, feels like, smells like we've got a case of the profit taking right now on these small caps, and you've got a downward sloping trend here. Now, for whatever fundamentals are going on out there right now, I really don't care about the fundamentals. The chart is all I need to worry about, right? As a new trader, being a chartist, right, being a technical analyst, allows you to do what we do without having a lot of experience, right? You don't need to know what's going on out there in this world. All you need to know is what this chart's telling you. And right now, this chart is telling me I have a bearish trend, lower lows, lower highs, red clouds, below all the moving averages. Now that I know I have my trend, I look for a trade setup. I've got setups right now. 1094, trigger zone setup. 1100, reversal line setup. Trigger zone setup, 7.9. Double top setup, 17.7. Reversal line setup, 34.3. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sell setups right now, with one of them staring us right in the face right now. Now, if you remember, I've been talking about this for a while now. This Russell has been just tumbling, and it hasn't given us any chance to get any really big sells going on right now. Get ready. Get ready. As we go lower, I've got targets down below here at 74.9, 50.1, 37.7, and then as you can see, we have a trend line here. That'll be a dynamic target, which means it will be different when we get down there. So be aware the low of that channel will make for an excellent target. We are in a beautiful area right now to be a seller on the Russell. As we keep on going here from the 64 down to my 32, not a lot changes, right? Not a lot changes. Now, I went ahead and I marked the May 15th lows, right? That was the last time we made a low here below 1100. May 15th. Boy, it's been a while, right? So 5:15, and now here we are on 10:02, right? So almost a full 5 months later, we're right back to where we came from here. As you can see on this chart, what's my trend? Well, we do have a short-term bullish move here. You can see we've turned from red to green, but knowing the long-term trend here is down, not going to shake us too much. I don't start worrying about the downtrend until this longer-term cloud turns green, right? So right now we may have a short-term bullish move, but as you can see, it's putting us right what we need right now. What's my trend? Trend is down. Where's my setup? Channel setup, trigger zone setup, reversal line setup, trigger zone setup, trigger zone setup overhead. 1, 2, 3, 4 trigger zones, one channel. I've got a reversal line, and I tried to make this trend line as obvious as possible because if you aren't looking for it, you would probably miss it, right? There's that kind of, what is that called? Magenta, not pink, right? It's not red. It's like magenta, right? So we got that trend line up high there. I'm having fun with you guys. Got that trend line overhead. That'll be another sell setup. So what is a trader to do right now? Well, right now you're a little bit crazy to be trading right now ahead of non-farm payrolls, but you've got the green light right now to be a seller. Just make sure you take that profit quickly here on the Russell because tomorrow morning it's going to start getting real whippy ahead of that non-farm payrolls. If you can even get filled on an order right now here after 6 p.m. Eastern time, this market reopens electronically, what I would do is I'd wait for tomorrow's non-farm payrolls. It will probably go higher into non-farm payrolls tomorrow, and then we'll be waiting to see if it will collapse back down. We saw the ADP employment number on Wednesday remarkably better than expectations. Jobless claims, even though it's not going to have a very big impact on this, jobless claims will also, today also came out better than expected. And again, I don't think jobless claims are going to have too much of an impact on us, but we do know, though, that they were better than expected. ADP on Wednesday gave us a good clue here. We're probably going to see a better than expected non-farm payrolls tomorrow, so don't be surprised here if we creep down overnight and then as traders start opening their notebooks and looking for tomorrow, they'll probably start looking more like the buy side here before we get into that non-farm payrolls tomorrow. Tough to tell right now, right? There's a lot of people here just completely sitting on hands till tomorrow, but I wouldn't be surprised if we jump higher here tomorrow before coming back down. And if we come back down after we go higher, probably won't be until the end of the morning, right? So be ready for that. You'll probably see if it comes out positive tomorrow morning, you'll see it jump up because, everybody wants to see these equities go higher. We've been in this downtrend here for a few weeks now. So all those perma bulls that felt embarrassed that they missed the chance to grab their profit at the highs there, they're all going to be cheering this thing on to go higher here, right? And, we should. U.S. equities, you want to be patriotic, but at the end of the day, though, we want to make money. So if it jumps up here, again, I've got you guys some sell zones overhead here. Those are going to be nice and tasty areas there for you guys to sell short later on in the morning, right? As always, don't forget, come out and see me tomorrow morning in our trade room, and you'll see how we do this stuff in real time. Last but not least here on the Russell, as you can see here, now, rewind the tape. Go back last night, and I talked about this last night. The Russell had this oversold territory, right? Last night we talked about this. I was on the 14 wave last night. We were going into a 15 wave count in last night's newsletter. And if you remember, my exact words were, we need to get a correction. We need to get this to make a new high, shake out all those sellers, get the buyers trapped in and then make those sellers get back in again, right? So that's kind of what we're thinking by this correction, right? And that's the best part about a correction, is that you've got everyone in the short, right? You've got everyone on the sell side. Where's their stops going to be? Their stops will be above the highs, right? So, of course, what happens? Well, as you can see, overnight, we tumbled lower. We actually tagged the target we had there on our newsletter list from last night. Tumbled lower. Yeah, violence in Hong Kong dried up. It was almost like at noontime today, the whole sentiment changed, and price got very bullish here ahead of tomorrow's non-farm payrolls. Again, if I was the analyst telling my trading team what to do, I would be telling them to look for that jump up tomorrow morning, because we assume that non-farm payroll report is going to be a little better than they expected. This may have already priced it in, right? So this jump up may have been nothing more than pricing in that expected higher number we're going to get tomorrow morning, right? We'll have to wait and see what the number comes out as. Bottom line, though, is right now, you can see we're right in a great spot to be a seller, and this probably is going to trap in those buyers here, right? Again, after the correction, the sellers get stopped out. The buyers, right, they start getting their bravado going, right? They start getting their confidence levels, right? They put on their buying hats, and they start to buy. So what happens is, if they get trapped in, what happens? Their sell stops are triggered, and then guys like me are waiting for it to come right back down, all right? So as we go higher here, I've got sells above, and then I've given you targets down below. Now, just a heads up here. If we go higher, if we go above 1100 tomorrow, these targets will have to be redrawn. Okay, so just giving you a heads up on that. If we stay around this area before collapsing, those targets will still be in play. Capiche? All right. So looking to be sellers here long term on the Russell, but again, I'm not going to be surprised tomorrow if we immediately see a jump up because of that anticipation of that non-farm payroll report. And I have a very strong feeling that jump up might be just very short-lived, trapping in all those buyers and giving those sellers a chance to get back in on the downside, right? We'll wait and see what happens tomorrow as we get back at it in our trade room. How about that gold? The funny yellow metal, gold futures. We continue here to trade in this consolidating range right now on gold. This is a relatively easy one here on gold right now. We're well oversold, right? If I was Richard Wyckoff right now, I would say we are in a downtrend, but we are in oversold territory, which means this is not near what he called the danger zone, right? The danger zone, according to Mr. Richard Wyckoff, I'm a student of his. I'm half joking around. He's been dead for a while, right? I would encourage you guys to go into our beginner's course and check it out there. I can teach you guys all about it there. 75.9, 93.1. Right? These will be some easy areas here. That's the danger zone. So we want to look for the best long-term sells up around where the trade becomes invalid, right? That was the danger zone that he talked about. You can learn more about that in our beginner's course here at School of Trade. Right now, we're well oversold here on the gold. We need to get us off these lows right now. And again, very suspicious the fact that we haven't tested that big round number of 1,200. Let's keep going. Now, as we zoom in right now from that 64 down to that 30, yikes. Get the kids out of the room right now for this one. This is not looking good. As you can see, our lower lows and our lower highs have now turned into higher lows and lower highs. And now, of course, that is a consolidating range right now. Now, in all reality, this should be no surprise ahead of such a big week we had here. Non-farm payrolls tomorrow, the ECB report today. So it's definitely no surprise why gold had a little case of the analysis paralysis here, a little bit of a case of the sniffles here today. Definitely trading sideways. Definitely some of the quietest price action we've seen in months on gold was this morning. We were looking for it to jump up or move somewhere, but it kind of stuck right there in the middle. That is a definite telltale sign. There's definitely something around the corner, and we don't need to look very far. We know tomorrow's non-farm payroll report is exactly why gold, right, will definitely be sitting sideways right now. Gold is a definite mark. All of these markets will be highly, highly impacted by non-farm payrolls. Gold being a shelter market, of course, right, for fear of economic slowdown, right, inflation, things like that. So the bearish trend has turned into a consolidation. We're going to continue here to look for selling opportunities at these highs. Now, again, I've got a downtrend, long-term downtrend, short-term consolidation. What that tells me is I want to stay to the sell side, but when I take my profit targets, I want to be conservative with those profit targets. So where am I looking for trades right now? Well, the first thing is top of this channel, right, or top of this wedge. That trend line, right, that'll be a setup. Honestly, I don't think that will be a very good spot to be a seller tomorrow, because you know what's going to happen, right? If we get something out of this news, it's not going to just go here. It's going to go all the way up and then come down, right? In fact, it will probably even go higher than that. But the reality is, though, I would normally be looking to sell that high of that range. You can definitely do it right now, but again, I would choose that's going to be a little bit lower percentage at the high of that wedge we can see here. I would much rather see us looking for selling opportunities here at 26.6, 30.0, range high up top here, 1237, right? So as we go higher, if we push higher, that's where I'm looking for the sell. If we push lower, I've got new lower lows. I've got my targets here listed for you down bottom, so you know where my targets are. If we go lower, that will now unlock a fresh set of sell zones for us, and I will update you guys on that going into tomorrow's live trade room at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So be with me tomorrow on the gold, and we'll update this according to what we see. Remember, oftentimes this report comes out, it shakes everything up so much that we have to redraw a lot of these lines, right? And then just to put the cherry on top, here is one of the most difficult. This chart took me 3.5 hours to put together. As you can see, there is, I mean, literally, we threw the kitchen sink at this bad boy. You got trend lines overhead, right? Wedge highs, trigger zones, range highs. I mean, the list goes on, as you can see here. This chart really could be ignored, right? In all reality, this chart really could be ignored. I really don't think that we're going to be able to contain this price inside this area, right? Like I said on that 32 anchor, I really don't think that gold's going to just sit there. Usually when non-farm payrolls come out, usually we get this huge move up or down, then we figure out what direction we're going to go in, and then we follow that direction. So I wanted to show you, though, how narrow this price has got over the past few days here. It's got really narrow. Now, remember, these narrowing wedges, these turn into those jack-in-the-boxes, right? Bam, right? And all of a sudden, it'll break out, right? So as we get narrower at the end of this wedge or this triangle or this consolidation range, whatever the heck you want to use to describe it, we know there will be some fireworks here to reward us for our patience. The one thing I want to remind you here, though, for gold is that be patient tomorrow after non-farm payrolls. We're going to talk how to trade non-farm payrolls in just a few moments, so stick around. But these are your levels. I would definitely be eyeing these highs up here at 26, right? These lows down here at 1200. I would definitely be eyeing those areas for the best buys and sells on this gold. Again, I just don't think that after 8:30 news comes out tomorrow, it'll probably go right through the high, right, or right through the low again, and these levels will all be blown out of the water. I'll have this chart ready in case I'm wrong, but again, if history repeats itself, non-farm payrolls usually get some fireworks on the horizon for you tomorrow morning. Again, we'll talk more about how to trade that non-farm payrolls in just a few moments. How about that crude? How about that crude? We talked about this last night. We needed to get a lower low here to open up some new sell zones. That's exactly what happened. Prices continue to get pummeled here on crude, as well as the Russell and the gold, right? But crude oil here, we have been making a killing on this market, selling short over the past 6 months. It's been awesome. It has been awesome. What's my trend? Trend is down. How do I know? Lower lows, lower highs, right? What's my clouds, right? I got red clouds below the key moving averages. Easy, 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 right? So downtrend. Now that I know my trend, where's my setup? 91.54 is a trigger zone setup. As you can see here, we have a channel setup. This is a long-term bearish channel, right? And that high will be a trend line or a channel setup. You'll also notice I attached the lows here, right? I drew a little trend line at those lows. I projected that line up top here, and that will be another potential sell setup overhead, right? So we got overhead here, 91.54. I've got this trend line, 93.46, 94.22, and then I doubt we get all the way up there tomorrow, but this is crude we're talking about. Wouldn't be the first time it's happened. 97.67 all the way up. Real quick, guys, real quick here. In anticipation of the bullish non-farm payrolls, I went ahead and projected 94. If I had to guess, if I just had to guess, if tomorrow's non-farm payrolls come out better than expected, and we get some other fluff, right, overnight. Maybe there's some bombing in Syria. You know what I'm saying, right? Right? There's some fresh crises, right, on the newspaper headlines in the Middle East or wherever the hell they decide to make these things up these days. Whatever the case may be, if we do see it jump up here, and again, the reason why I'm saying if it does jump is because of Wednesday's ADP employment number. So if it jumps up, don't take the bait from these buys, right? You know that these buys are going to be just reeling you in for those sellers coming in at those highs. We've got both time and price symmetry up at 94. Okay, so it's due. It's due. As much as I would love to see this thing collapse right now, because again, you got the sell zone right here for crying out loud, right? We have the green light right now to be a seller. But the problem is we got a flashing yellow light right now with the big skull and crossbones saying, hey, we got non-farm payrolls tomorrow, so easy does it, right? Cool those jets. My gut tells me, though, we may see this thing go lower here a little bit overnight, and then possibly before the news comes out tomorrow, this might be priced in, or after the news comes out, up to 94, right, and then back down we go. Obviously, I'm speculating right now. I have to wait and see tomorrow morning what we get. Moving forward here, 32 anchor chart here on the crude. Look closely here now, and you can see there's that prior trading range we're in. I like to keep that information on the chart just so I don't forget where we were. You can see they pulled back to it right after going higher. That's very typical here after we leave a range and come back in. And by the way, does anybody remember what I told you guys yesterday? Remember how I said don't even think about selling that low? Right, remember that? Yeah, go back and watch last night's newsletter. I hope you took my advice because as you can see, if you tried to buy that low here, you were doing, maybe you get a little bit out of it, but whoop, right back up. Very classic, very typical for a fake out breakout. And this is exactly what we were looking forward to. So now we've got ourselves, like I said before, we have ourselves right in the position right now to look for that short. But we got this little kind of party pooper tomorrow, this newsletter, this news coming out tomorrow. Yeah, that darn newsletter, it's junk. We get that news tomorrow morning. I'm having fun again. That news tomorrow morning, 8:30. So we can't go taking these right now, but 91.54, 92.96, 93.46, and then of course you got all the way up here at 95 even, right? I don't think we could get all the way up there. Again, like I said, there's symmetry up there. There's the high of that range up there. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's put it that way, right? We're looking to be a seller. I have a target, you'll notice, on this trend line, right? So this trend line, if we go up and then sell it, you want to use that trend line as a definite target here for you guys, right? You definitely want to use that trend line as a target. As you go lower here, as we go lower, I've got targets at 89.38, 88.18, 86.76, and that is about $85 even on the way down. Also, you'll notice here, drew this trend line, and depending on where we get there, that trend line may also come into play tomorrow morning. All right? 32 anchor chart in the books. Last but not least here on the crude, and last but not least here for our newsletter here for this week is our 16 anchor chart. As you can see, I've left this bear channel on the chart. Why is it important to leave it on the chart? Well, here's what happens. When we break a trend line, what's going to happen is look left, find that next area of resistance, and that's where we're going to hunt before we go back to that low again. Okay, this is very, very typical for any market, right? So you see price going lower, right? You draw your trend line. We break that trend line. Price will hunt after a prior high, consolidate, and then right back down to where it came from. Okay? It's basically a glorified bull trap is what it is, right? It gets all the buyers to start drinking the Kool-Aid. It gets them all excited, and then guess what? They put their stops right there. It runs the stops. Sellers get back in to follow the trend, and it goes right back to where it came from. A very typical price action setup. I use these range-based candles because it makes it easy to see those patterns. But you can see, though, right here, right off the bat, you can see exactly what I'm talking about right here, 92.96 overhead, right? That would be the next high here. Now, look closely, members, look closely. We have a zigzag setup right here, all right? I'm not going to go into too much detail on it. If you're not a member of mine, you won't know what I'm talking about. But we have a possible zigzag here right now, setting up here. And I've got sell zones overhead. I've got my trigger zone, 91.94. I've got my zigzag, 92.60. I have my double top, 92.96, which we just talked about a moment ago. And I've got a trigger zone here at 93.46. Remember what I said, $94 a barrel is where we have that symmetry. That's where we could definitely be headed here if we don't turn around at 93. Remember, these non-farm payrolls, they are no joke. This is the biggest news we get. It's one of the most dangerous environments you can get into if you're not prepared. This stuff is right up there with trading FOMC announcement. So be careful tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, shall we? Tomorrow is the 3rd day of October, and unless you've had corn in them ears of yours, we know that we've got corn? Where'd that come from, Joe? I've never heard that term before. I made it up out of thin air, right? Another one of those dumb trading jokes. We've got some big news tomorrow morning, I guess, unless you live under a rock. How's that analogy, right? Corn in your ears, live under a rock. What else you got? What else you got, JJ? Oh, boy, that was horrible. Luckily, this is the last one this week you get to suffer through. Tomorrow morning, we got some major news on the calendar, but nobody cares about it except for that employment report at 8:30. As you can see here, we got quite a bit of some tasty news tomorrow morning. I've got 3:50 from France, 3:55 from Germany, 4 o'clock from the EU, 4:30 from Great Britain. Whew! That's quite a bit of action. Those are all red star news events tomorrow. Oh, and then a minor report from retail sales in the EU. But again, I don't think anybody's going to care about that stuff tomorrow because everyone's going to be all eyes and ears focused on the employment situation, right? Otherwise known as non-farm payrolls. Let's talk about this for a second. I told you about this last night. We're probably going to get the slowdown this afternoon ahead of tomorrow's non-farm payrolls. That happened literally right at 12 o'clock. Now, I can't quite tell. I think they may have priced that report in, right? You saw crude jump. Gold didn't do anything. I'm still looking for a pulse on gold right now. But crude jumped up. Russell jumped up. I could definitely speculate that was some what they call the market pricing it in, right? So basically, traders think tomorrow's news will be bullish. Subconsciously or consciously, they voice their opinion. They cast their vote for buying, right? So prices go higher. What that means is that tomorrow, if the news comes out bullish, the market won't move. It's already been priced in. It's difficult to tell. Everything kind of shifted at noon today. there was reports about Hong Kong's violence kind of de-escalating as if a bunch of kids can cause, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, they could definitely cause some problems there in Hong Kong, couldn't they? So that situation developed a little bit over noontime, right? We didn't get much out of the ECB this morning, so it's kind of tough to figure out why that price jumped up. Maybe it was pricing the news tomorrow, but the reality is this. Very slow, very sluggish, and you're not going to have a single bit of smart money in the markets here until 8:30 tomorrow morning. All right? Trust you me. If you've got $1 billion of other people's money, you are not going to be in any large positions with the threat of getting stuck in those large positions before tomorrow's news comes out, right? So investors are smart. Speculators are smart. They're not going to get trapped in if they get caught off guard tomorrow morning. So people will be flat going into tomorrow's news. What that means is be very careful trading tomorrow before 8:30 a.m. Tomorrow, my strategy is I'm going to be sitting on hands until about 8:45. Usually what happens is we get the initial reaction at about 8:30 to 8:35, right? That's just the crazy chaos. Okay, it's usually chaotic. If the markets price this news in today, right, if that jump up was indeed what I think it might be, the pricing in of that news, then if this comes out higher than expected tomorrow, we'll probably see a pretty weak reaction. Don't let that fool you, because it's going to lull you right to sleep before it takes off up or down. So the bottom line is we are either A, going to see a very violent reaction, or B, we're going to see a dead reaction. Either way, don't do a single darn thing until about 8:45. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to be sitting on hands until 8:45 a.m. tomorrow morning. Then, once we know what type of reaction we got, once we know what the news was, because this, my friends, you know how I always talk about the fact that news has nothing to do with the markets? This is one of those events that does not apply. This will have lasting impacts in the markets. This will be responsible for moving the markets tomorrow. That's the way it goes. This and the FOMC announcement are the only two news events, in my humble opinion, that have long-lasting impacts on the markets we trade. Okay, there are whole entire companies that are dedicated to just analyzing this report. And then for the rest of the month, this will now bring most traders, this will determine their trading strategies, right? Their analysts at their firms will pass that down to their traders, and that will govern, right, how they trade the rest of the month of October. So we need to make sure we stay patient tomorrow morning. Don't be a hero. There's no first place ribbon for being the first person in at 8:30. All right? And if it's been like anything we've seen so far this week, the big money's been made real early in the morning or real late in the morning. You're not going to get a chance to grab it real early in the morning tomorrow. So look for it after the news comes out. As always, I'll be here with you guys and gals tomorrow morning as we trade it together in our trade room. Now, after we see that 8:45, then we start trading it. We should see this day continue until about 10:30. 10:30 is about the time when we get that big Friday slowdown. Now, here's the reality, guys. Here's the reality. Are you ready? After 10:30, the only people who will be trading tomorrow morning are going to be rookies and retail traders, right, who have their trading strategy is ignorance. And the other person trading is going to be the Christmas trader, right? The I'm in trouble trader. It's the end of the week. It's the I'm still padding my numbers for the end of the first quarter, right? It's the Hail Mary. It's the desperation traders. So after 10:30 tomorrow, most traders have already placed their bets. It's a Friday. So after 11 o'clock, you really got to be careful on a Friday, right? Fridays are early in, early out. What we typically see, though, on a non-farm payroll Friday is we get that great price action between 8:30 and 10:30. After 10:30, we get that slowdown. All the smart money leaves the markets. They go to their weekend. They go work on their Halloween costumes, okay? Now the rookies, the retail traders, right? The ignorance is bliss traders and the desperation traders, in other words, People who have no choice or people who have no clue, they'll be trading after 10:30. All right? And as my good friend Warren Buffett says, I want to play polo with professionals, not amateurs. You're liable to get your head taken off. You go playing polo with some amateurs. What does that mean? That means trading becomes a really frustrating game when you're trading with 8-year-olds or people who are emotionally charged. So be careful after 10:30. You will see some volume enter the market after 10:45, 11 o'clock, right? Almost as if people are getting their weekend going, a glass of red wine, and woohoo, let's go gamble in the markets for a few hours while they're still open. Be careful, all right? Be careful. I tend to be somebody who says, put the money in the account, wrap it up tight, hit the weekend, and come back on Monday. Which reminds me, Monday is Reaction Monday. I might as well talk about that right now because I won't see you until Monday evening. Monday is Reaction Monday. So be ready for awesome price action next Sunday night and Monday morning. Okay? So careful tomorrow. Be ready on Sunday night, Monday, because a lot of traders don't even trade non-farm payroll Friday. A lot of professionals don't even trade non-farm payroll Friday. They let all the poor suckers get run over. They come back on Sunday night. They see what the news looked like over the weekend, and they place their bets going into next week. All right? So be ready for non-farm payroll Friday tomorrow. Good luck out there. You don't need luck. You get a great strategy, and as long as you use discipline to follow this plan tomorrow, you will be just fine. As we wrap up here, guys and gals, I want to thank you so much for being a part of our newsletter here this week. And before I let you guys go, I want to remind you guys, head on over here to SchoolOfTrade.com. Grab your free trial. We got a week free trial to test drive our course materials. Join our trade room. I've got someone standing by here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 to give you guys any help that you need. We have lifetime memberships, beginner, intermediate, and advanced memberships. And guys and gals, that will do it here for me. Have yourselves a great weekend. If I don't see you tomorrow morning in my trade room, thanks so much for sharing this information with a friend, joining our free trial, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning back in that live trade room. My name is Joseph James, broadcasting from a beautiful fall afternoon here in Los Angeles, California. You guys have a great afternoon, have a great evening, a great weekend. Be well, be happy, be profitable, and we'll see you Monday. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.